feel like this is one of those situations where everyone's going to be surprised for some reason when Ubisoft announces major changes, a massive overhaul, or something even more dire, because their situation right now is bad. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Smash JT. Ubisoft stock continues to fall, plummeting another 10% in the past 2 days. This is on top of losing 10% last week, and in addition to that, going down even before then. And this is right when their heavy hitters are starting to come out. Star Wars Outlaws has already released 2 mediocre at best reviews. And then we have Assassin's Creed Shadows that nobody that I can tell is looking forward to. Even the most hardcore of Assassin's Creed fans are on the fence on if they even want to bother playing this one. And that's saying something. Hit that subscribe, give me a like, and check out SmashJT.com for the full article breaking down how Ubisoft is in dire straits right now, in need of a savior that they don't have on the horizon, because they put all their eggs in 2 baskets, and neither one of them are panning out. Ubisoft is in serious trouble, and all the signs are growing more dire by the day. Last week, the gaming giant's investors were disappointed with early sales numbers for Star Wars Outlaws, causing the stock to plummet more than 10%, and ultimately dropping the market cap below 2 billion euros at the time. Dr. Sirkin Toto said, investors seem very disappointed about Star Wars Outlaws sales numbers and let Ubisoft stock crash. Shares lost over 10% combined in the last 2 days, so the company just slipped under the 2 billion in market cap in Paris. Ubisoft is at almost 10-year low, and this was last week. Fast forward to right now, it is continuing to plummet, with the latest updates of it going down another 9% on top of that, meaning that Ubisoft stock is falling into all-time low territory. Dr. Sirkin Toto followed up saying, I don't want to beat this to death, but Ubisoft stock in Paris is currently dropping another 9%. Market cap is down to 1.7 billion or US 1.9 billion. And when the stock was plummeting last week, I made a tongue-in-cheek tweet where I was just like, you know, if you invested $10,000 in Ubisoft in 2018, it would be worth $2,500 today. And that was last week, meaning that it's 9% lower than that amount right now. Both Assassin's Creed Shadows and Star Wars Outlaws were touted by executives as blockbuster hits upcoming and in the making, promising to captivate gamers and deliver massive returns. Yet the early rumored numbers and sales and pre-orders are painting quite the opposite picture. Friend of the channel Stuttering Craig said on Twitter, a worker at a large games retailer in a big market told me they have had exactly 0 pre-orders for any version of Star Wars Outlaws. For reference, Suicide Squad had 3. This game is DOA. Learning the Law said Star Wars Outlaws is estimated to cost between $80 and $100 million. Ubisoft recently showcased the game as a proud example of their diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. With the release approaching, here are the explosion effects. But don't just take it from me, let's hear what Ubisoft had to say to their actual investors during an earnings call about their hopes and dreams for these upcoming titles.
We don't disclose nor comment pre-orders. Usually what we can say is that what we've been observing and measuring is that our 2 big titles actually are indeed among the most awaited games of the industry, and they enjoy a very strong positive community sentiment overall.
Proving that when I called it out as a lie, I was right. These executives at Ubisoft are scared, and they're telling their investors asking the questions that everything is fine, it's all hunky-dory, go look somewhere else because we're good here, trust us, the sales will be fine, you know, everything's good, everything, gamers are excited about it, when they're anything but that. They're just trying to hang on to their jobs as long as they can before it all comes crashing down. And on top of lying straight up to their investors, they've also injected DEI into their games, whether they want to admit it or not. There's no Black Samurai, and that's been proven. Yet for some reason, Ubisoft felt the need to inject Yasuke as the main protagonist in Assassin's Creed Shadows. For what reason exactly? Kangmin Lee said, all Ubisoft had to do was have a Japanese main character for a game that takes place in feudal Japan. But they couldn't help but shoehorn in a DEI black guy and repeatedly market him as a real-life samurai based on zero historical evidence. Now a whole nation is pissed off. And that was in response to Assassin's Creed giving basically a apology, a 4-page apology to the entire Japanese community for injecting DEI in a game where it had no place. This is what we're dealing with. Learning the Law posted, IGN praised Thomas Lockley for the upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows featuring Yasuke and labeled critics as bigots for highlighting his Western propaganda, distorting Japanese history. Now that the author has been exposed and Ubisoft is apologizing, they're backtracking. It's alienated a significant portion of gamers. People are responding to it as predicted, negative and very dismissive. And it makes you wonder, can Ubisoft turn this around? And honestly, in the current state, I don't know if it can. I mean, outside of Just Dance that continues to substantiate most of their profits every year with the same thing being rehashed and people continuing to buy it, I don't see anything else that Ubisoft can do to save this, at least with the current leadership in place. They've injected DEI, they've made poor decisions, they've rehashed the same properties over and over and making them worse, making them similar, reusing assets, being generic, repetitive gameplay. It's almost like Ubisoft forgot how to make a game fun and instead just fell to the what makes sense for the masses and will just spit out the same thing, cookie cutter formula every year over and over again, and gamers are going to just continue to eat it up because that's what gamers do. They don't think anymore, they just buy because it says Assassin's Creed on it. Or even in this case, Star Wars. In a way, it kind of almost feels like a modern day THQ, using massive properties to sell a brand to people. And then the game itself is mediocre at best, and gamers are like, I was expecting a fun game out of this to get involved in the lore in the world and enjoy the experience, and instead I'm just getting a generic game that I could actually be playing Black Myth Wukong or many other games out there that don't inject DEI into them and are fantastic, enthralling and engaging experiences that take the player away to a different world, and you don't have to worry about all the other nonsense that's trying to be pushed down your throat. Not to mention that the notion of paying for a game without actually owning it has only fueled frustrations with gamers. Ubisoft's director of subscriptions, Philippe Tremblay, spoke at length at the State of Play via Insider Gaming, stating, in his words, millions of users have flocked to Ubisoft's cloud-based streaming service since it launched, and there are expectations that the number of users adopting these subscription-based models will swell as time goes on. He stressed that users should get comfortable with these services, and that despite some users still clinging to physical games, a consumer shift needs to happen. Do you know why the consumer shift needs to happen? Because his job and bonuses depend on it. Not because gamers actually want to do it, but because he's trying to get people to come over to the place where you don't own the games, and he can make more money from that. And honestly, at the end of the day, that doesn't work. Ultimately, the gamers are the customer, and the vast majority that I talk to want to own their games. In fact, I haven't found someone that is perfectly fine with not owning a game. It's a very strange mentality that I will never, for the life of me, understand. But all of these issues are contributing to why Ubisoft is having a massive downfall right now. Marcusio Ravenger said, Ubisoft didn't die with the epic failure of Ghost Recon Breakpoint, but perhaps they'll get a second chance at death due to the failures of Outlaws and Shadows. I can't think of a more fitting game ending them entirely than one predicated on Asian hate. Getter Paulo Gaming said, if Ubisoft keeps on forcing political views on their games and ignore the majority, which is us, then they will fail soon. Why can't they make the classics like Splinter Cell or The Last Ghost Recon, not the always online one? The community has spoken. People are not a fan of the direction that Ubisoft has been going. And this is nothing new. This has been happening for a very long time now. And unless they do some major changes, and I'm talking like massive shift in executives running the company and making these decisions, nothing is going to change, and they're going to continue to spiral downward until ultimately they dissolve into nothing. I'm going to leave it there. If you guys want more information, check out smashjt.com for the full article breaking this down with the links, resources, and information. It was a wild deep dive on Ubisoft, and honestly, I don't feel very good about their chances of success moving forward, and they got no one to blame but themselves. If you guys enjoy what I'm doing and appreciate it, please consider hitting that join button. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, you stay smashing.
The gameplay for our two highly anticipated upcoming premium titles, Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows, was not only praised by players and critics alike, but also highlighted the cutting-edge capabilities of our game engine.
Smash,